Welcome back, listeners, to another captivating episode of Red Hunt, where I, Red, dive deep into the thrilling world of relationship Reddit stories that will leave you craving for more. So sit back, relax, and prepare to embark on this roller coaster ride of love, betrayal, and everything in between. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for weekly updates. Am I the antagonist for telling my wife I'm uncomfortable with Stepson calling me dad because he already has one? I am a 38-year-old male and a father to 3 kids, a 14-year-old boy, a 9-year-old girl, and a 2-year-old girl. They are not important to this story. I am also a stepfather to a 6-year-old boy named Michelle, who is important to the story. For some background, my wife, 35 years old, and I were high school sweethearts. However, my wife had a male best friend named Keith, 36 years old, who was obviously in love with her. To make a long story short, my wife and I got married, she got pregnant, and she decided to drop out of college to be a stay-at-home mom. Everything was fine until one day she left me and the kids. It turns out Keith had been influencing her, telling her about all the things she missed out on being with me, and she left me for him. About 2 years later, Keith turned out to be a controlling jerk. My wife realized how he had manipulated her and begged me to take her back. I was heartbroken but wanted her back, so I agreed. Now, my wife and I are doing well. We attend marriage counseling twice a month and recently had our youngest child. The only major problem is with my stepson, Michelle. Michelle is a sweet and affectionate kid whom I love, but I am not his biological father. Despite his flaws, Keith has been very involved as a dad. He pays for all of Michelle's expenses, including family trips, and provides substantial child support. However, my wife despises Keith and tries to limit his time with Michelle. Although I don't agree, I don't interfere with their custody arrangement. Just know that we have Michelle with us most of the time. Now, getting to the main point, Michelle has recently started calling me dad sometimes and using my name other times. This confused me since he has only ever called me by my name in the past. I sat him down and asked him why he was doing that, and he told me I was like a dad to him. His mother told him that he could have 2 dads. I explained that it was sweet of him to see me that way, but he already had a dad who loved him very much. I brought this up to my wife, and she was extremely happy about it. She talked about how we could be one happy family and get rid of Keith. However, I expressed my discomfort with being labeled as dad. I suggested that Michelle could call me another name, such as Papa plus my name, Ope, to differentiate between me and Keith. My wife reacted by calling me heartless and accusing me of rejecting the child I had been raising for years. I reminded her that I had gone through 2 years of her trying to turn my own children against me, and I wouldn't let her use Michelle like that. As a result, she has been giving me the cold shoulder and even involved my mother, who dislikes my wife, in the situation. This has made me question whether I am the one in the wrong. It's understandable that you're not comfortable with the dad label, especially considering the history between your wife and Keith. You're simply trying to protect Michelle from being used as a pawn in your wife's attempts to get back at Keith. Your suggestion of finding another name that distinguishes your role from Keith's is a reasonable compromise, and your wife's reaction seems unfair and exaggerated. My best friend kicked me out of her wedding party. My best friend recently asked me to no longer be a part of her wedding. We have been close for many years, but as we grew older, we drifted apart due to different life paths. Despite this, we kept in touch and remained friends. When she got engaged, I was thrilled for her, and she asked me to be a bridesmaid and do her makeup for the wedding. Recently, I attended her bachelorette party, which was a trip with her friends and sisters. I felt a bit uncomfortable because I don't know many of the people there, but I made an effort to socialize and be kind to everyone. I had a great conversation with my friend, where we both expressed our desire to rebuild our friendship. I felt proud of myself for stepping out of my comfort zone. However, the following day, my friend called me and I could tell something was wrong from her tone. She expressed that she felt I hadn't made an effort to get to know her friends, and that I was trying too hard to be closer to them than the other girls. She also mentioned that she didn't feel loved or supported by me, and that we had grown too different to be a part of each other's lives. She said I could still come to the wedding if I wanted, but she would understand if I didn't. She later texted me to apologize for hurting my feelings. I have been reflecting on the situation, trying to figure out what I did wrong, but I can't seem to find any major faults. I feel heartbroken that she could simply discard me like this. I have already spent a significant amount of money on flights and accommodations for the wedding. My question is, should I still attend the wedding or should I distance myself from her? Wow, that's a tough situation. It sounds like there may have been some miscommunication or misunderstanding during the bachelorette party that you weren't aware of. It's understandable that you're hurt, especially after investing so much into attending the wedding. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to go is up to you and what you feel most comfortable with. Taking some time for yourself and reflecting on the situation might help you gain some clarity. Am I the antagonist for telling my sister she's the last person I want my wife to be like as a parent? My sister is 8 years older than me, and she has 5 kids while my wife and I have 1 child so far. I don't have a great relationship with my sister and we don't interact frequently. We probably see each other about 5 times a year, with varying levels of interaction. The reason for my strained relationship with my sister is her immense feeling of superiority and her tendency to control others. She has always been like this, even when we were kids. Being significantly older than me, she always felt entitled to boss me around or expect me to imitate her. It used to bother her a lot that we were so different. Things went downhill after my wife and I became parents. My sister never really wanted her kids to have a close relationship with me, and she kept them away most of the time. Even when we were around each other, she made sure they stayed close to her. She claimed it was because I disrespected her. Despite this, she feels entitled to pressure my wife and me to parent in a certain way. When my wife decided to stop breastfeeding due to its negative impact on her mental health, I was relieved. My sister had struggled with it and driven herself to the edge with her oldest 2 kids, but our parents and her doctor were concerned. Even when her husband worked nights, one of our parents stayed over at her place because they were worried about her. She actually threatened to sue our parents and her doctor when they suggested introducing formula, accusing them of trying to make her a bad mother. Ironically, she ignores her other kids when she's in that state. I never wanted my wife to go through that, so I was glad when she prioritized her mental health. When my sister tried to shame her, I immediately intervened and silenced her. It took several minutes of talking over her to make her stop. This happened at our parents' house. She attempted to approach my wife after that, but my wife walked away. Once I heard my sister spewing more negativity, I insisted that we leave, but instead, my parents asked her to leave. My sister then attempted to contact my wife through social media, but they aren't friends on any platform, and my wife has her direct messages set to private. We encountered each other again during Christmas, and this time she attacked us for showing too much affection to our child, claiming that our child was too old for constant cuddling since they were almost 1. I intervened again, and our parents told her to leave if she couldn't behave. She despised being shut out, so she approached me and claimed that she was trying to help my wife become a better mother, more like herself. She insisted that she was the perfect role model for my wife to follow. I told her that I felt sorry for her if she genuinely believed that, because she is the last person I would want my wife to emulate as a parent. My sister freaked out and I walked away from her. However, she continued to approach me multiple times, accusing me of disrespect and claiming that I have always treated her poorly. Am I the asshole here? It seems like your sister has consistently shown a lack of respect for your boundaries and your family's choices. It's understandable that you're frustrated with her attempts to assert control and pressure your wife into parenting a certain way. Your sister's behavior and insistence on being the best example for your wife is unreasonable, and it's valid for you to stand up for your wife and your own beliefs in parenting. Am I the antagonist for asking my in-laws to pay if they want to see my kids? My husband passed away when our kids were 1 and 4. It was a very difficult time, and my in-laws were incredibly supportive. They took care of me and the kids, with his sisters making meals and their husbands assisting with yard work and house chores. On one occasion, I had a breakdown at the grocery store and called my father-in-law for help. He and my mother-in-law came to pick us up, took care of the kids, and drove me and my car home. Even after I started healing, they continued to be there for us. They helped with the kids while I worked and supported us when I went back to school. When I finished my studies, I found a good job quite far away, but it was in a city where I have family. We discussed and prayed about it, and they understood that planning for our future necessitated this move. However, the current issue is that they always want to see the kids, which is wonderful. My kids and I love them, and they are truly amazing people. The problem is that starting my career at a later stage in life means I cannot afford to take time off work to travel long distances with the kids, nor can they travel alone. We spent Thanksgiving with my parents, so we spent Christmas with my in-laws. It hasn't even been a month, and now they want us to come back for my mother-in-law's birthday. They also want us to visit the lake in the summer and have various other plans. If this continues, I won't be able to save any money. I finally had a conversation with them, explaining that I want them to be a significant part of my children's lives, but they will need to contribute financially if they want to see them so frequently. For example, I suggested that they could have the kids for 2 weeks in the summer, but they would need to either pick them up or drop them off, with me doing the other leg of the trip. Additionally, I proposed that they visit my city instead of relying on me to always drive there. I even bought a house with an in-law suite specifically for their visits, but they have never used it. I understand that they are a close-knit family living in the same city, but I am unable to bear the sole responsibility of ensuring they see the kids. They are upset with my request, and one of my sisters-in-law expressed disappointment from her family's perspective after everything they had done for us. I feel guilty, but I simply cannot fulfill all their desires without their financial assistance. Wow, it sounds like you've been through a lot, and your in-laws have been a great support system. It's completely understandable that you're trying to focus on your career and financial stability after everything you've been through. Asking them to contribute financially for visits seems like a fair compromise, especially since you've already made accommodations for them in your new house. It's important to set boundaries and prioritize your own well-being, so don't feel guilty for standing up for yourself. Am I the antagonist for telling my roommate that either his pregnant girlfriend stops whining or he moves out? I am a 28-year-old man living in an apartment that was given to me by my uncle. The apartment has 2 bedrooms, but since I don't need the extra space, I decided to rent out one of the rooms. My roommate is a 24-year-old man who's been living with me for a little over a year and a half. He has been dating his girlfriend, who is also 24, I think, for about 5 years. She lives in another house with 4 other roommates. Since her place is more crowded, my roommate asked me if it was okay for her to stay over sometimes. I agreed, as long as they were respectful. So far, we haven't had any major issues. However, things have changed since his girlfriend got pregnant. When he told me the news, I congratulated him but made it clear that I didn't want her to move in with us. I work from home most of the time, and I prefer not to deal with a third person or a newborn in the future. He asked if she could still come and stay some nights, and I agreed to that. She is currently about 4 months pregnant. However, in the past 3 months, she has become increasingly annoying whenever she stays over. She wakes me up in the middle of the night or early morning because she frequently runs to the bathroom at the end of the hallway. I don't use that bathroom myself, but my guests have pointed out that it's often dirty and messy. Additionally, she is staying over more nights than before. The biggest problem is her severe and ongoing morning sickness. This has caused issues with the food in our apartment, as my roommate and his girlfriend have asked me to stop eating certain foods that make her sick. I told her that this is my home, and she has no right to expect me to change my diet for her. They took my response badly. Despite this, I have continued my normal routine, but she always complains and rushes to the bathroom when I cook. There have even been instances when she has vomited on the floor, which is disgusting. To be honest, I'm fed up with the situation. I told my roommate that either she stops coming over, she stops complaining, or he moves out. I'm willing to give him a month or 2 if needed to find another place to live, but I'm tired of having his girlfriend over. She is really getting on my nerves. Naturally, my roommate was upset by my ultimatum. He argued that she wouldn't annoy me so much if I were more understanding of her condition. He mentioned that they aren't in a comfortable position to move, and that she is sick and needs his support. Some of my friends, coworkers, and family agree with my point of view, but others think I'm being unreasonable and suggest that I could easily change my diet for a few months. Am I the asshole in this situation? It's your apartment, and you have the right to set boundaries. You were already accommodating by allowing her to stay over, but her behavior has become disruptive and unsanitary. Your roommate should be understanding of your concerns and either address the issues with his girlfriend or find a different living arrangement. Am I the antagonist for accepting my grandmother's house? I had an ugly divorce in 2010, so I ended up moving back to my childhood town. I bought an apartment, but the residents needed 2 months to move out. In the meantime, my mother asked me to help her mother, who had fallen on slippery stairs and was now in a wheelchair. Other relatives wanted to put her in a nursing home and sell the house to cover the costs, but I agreed to stay with her instead. After 2 months, it was clear that my 75-year-old grandmother wouldn't recover enough to leave the wheelchair. She asked if I could rent out my new apartment and stay with her. I agreed and decided to renovate the house since it was difficult to keep it warm. I installed a central heating system and built a new wheelchair-accessible bathroom. By 2015, I had spent a significant amount of money on the house. Worried about the future, I discussed the possibility of buying out my aunts and uncle, who wanted to sell the house. My grandmother thought it was a good idea, and we agreed to make a plan. On her birthday, my grandmother surprised everyone by announcing that she wanted to gift the house to me. A few weeks later, we went to the notary, and she officially transferred the house to my name. With the house now mine, I decided to sell my apartment and continue renovating. The list of renovations was long, including changing the asbestos-based roof, fixing the chimney, improving house insulation, and updating electrical wiring. Years passed, and in 2023, my grandmother passed away at the age of 87. A few months after her funeral, one of my aunts, the youngest, came to my home with a real estate appraiser. This is where the issue arises. They believe that my grandmother wasn't serious about gifting me the house and that we should sell it instead, splitting the money among my mother, her siblings, and her brother. However, my mother and her older sister agreed with my grandmother's decision. The others sued me, claiming that I had taken advantage of an elderly person for financial gain. Recently, I received notice from the court stating that they failed to provide any evidence of my grandmother's inability to make decisions, so the court couldn't change anything. As a result, they are no longer on speaking terms with each other, and I have received numerous messages calling me a greedy asshole. So, am I the asshole? It sounds like your grandmother made her decision willingly and was fully aware of what she was doing. You invested a lot of time, money, and effort into taking care of her and renovating the house, so it's understandable that she would want to leave it to you. Your other relatives are just bitter because they didn't get a cut of the money from selling the house. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.